we're here to talk about violin making and so many other things about you. Paris Andrew. Just wanted to quickly introduce you to anyone who doesn't know you. So I'm speaking with female luthier Paris Andrew. She is joining us from Italy in her workshop in Florence. And we're here to talk about violin making and so many other things about you. So welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me.
Oh, yes, it's my pleasure. So in line with the introduction, how do you have a background in the arts?
I grew up in a super artistic household. So my mum was an art teacher and then is now a stonemason. So she's the first female stonemason at Durham Cathedral in England.
Wow.
But me and my brother, we were really lucky. I mean, we grew up in a household full of music, all kinds of music, art history, lots and lots of reading, lots and lots of projects, really manual, always hands-on. And I played the violin from a really, really early age. So I was playing from about 4 or 5 until I was 18, where I stopped because it was so busy. It's not easy keeping up the practice every day. And I decided I wanted to make them instead. And they're not super compatible, playing and making, because you just mess your hands up so much. So
wow. So I guess that kind of leads me to the next question of how you got started as a luthier. You know, it's a very male-dominated field traditionally,
yeah.
And I think it still is, although there's the likes of you and a few others that I've started to come to become aware of. So yeah, if you can speak to that.
I mean, I'd always been super hands-on, really practical, always, outside, growing up in the countryside, building stuff, fixing stuff, and being a violinist. So I had to take my violin in for repairs, and I saw this Lutherie workshop, and I thought, well, this is amazing. I want to do this. I want to make. I actually started working with a harpsichord maker, so harpsichord maker and restorer in the south of England. So I was actually doing some repair restoration work with him. And then I went to South Thames College in London, where I was really lucky. I got to study with Keith Graves, who's an amazing maker and teacher, fantastic guy as well. And that's really where I got my training. Then after training, I mean, it's a case of visiting every luthier you can, trying to get more experience, learning different things. When I moved to Italy 5 years ago, it really changed my outlook on a lot of things, because I had a chance to work alongside a lot of Italian luthiers here in Tuscany and sort of really get into the Tuscan school of Lutherie and see how they were doing things. I've learned something from pretty much every luthier I've ever known or spent time with. It is changing. There's now Women in Lutherie, which is a huge international community. I'm really happy to have been part of that since the beginning and doing a lot of work with them. And it's amazing seeing things are getting a lot better. It is a lot less male dominated now. So I think there's still a lot of problems that need to get addressed, especially I think as well, coming into a traditionally male, older white space. There's not always super accepting, but I mean, we are here now, so
yes,
they're going to have to make room, and yeah, whether they like it or not.
Right, it's happening. So
yeah.
Well, thank you for that. So who are your customers? Are they, this is probably a very silly question, do female musicians come and find you mostly, or is it a mix of female, male?
It depends on the work, because I do a lot of repair and restoration here in the workshop. I'm the only luthier in this space here that does the repair and restoration. So it tends to be the local musicians, which is a mixture between the professionals, the teachers, people from the orchestras, and also visiting musicians who are here for concerts and suddenly have a big instrument problem. So it's a really, really mixed bag. For the new instruments, it's worldwide. I mean, the market now for Lutherie is global. So, our clients in Korea and America and all over Europe, pretty much just everywhere that has internet access, and they have, dealers and merchants who want for the shops and things. It's really exciting, but it's a strange feeling knowing the instruments are going off to a country I've never even been to. It's where are they? Are they okay? Are they happy?
Yes, I'm sure. So,
I hope so.
yes, I think from the little I do know, Italy is home to the art of violin making. And so I think people, I would assume that people specifically seek out luthiers in Italy because it's a destination artistically. So yeah, I'm sure they'll be coming back.
Yeah. Well, here's a real hub. I mean, it's so famous, Italy, for violin making, and like France is famous for bows. A lot of people come here. A lot of people go to Cremona. They go straight to Cremona and bypass the rest of Italy, which is crazy because there's so many amazing like schools of Lutherie all over Italy. You know, there's Neapolitan school, Tuscan school, Brescian, everything. But no, it's sort of the home here. But there's a lot of pride in it. I think there's a lot of pride in the tradition, which is really nice. And I think there is a community. It's nice to have so many luthiers in the country. Means that, you know, there's a lot of luthiers to hang out with and be friends with, which is like a real bonus that I never really anticipated.
Are there, do you speak the language, or do you have you do? Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah, it was like I sort of like had to learn, otherwise you just can't really survive or communicate. So I learned pretty fast. I think necessity drives you to learn a new language pretty quickly if you need to. I mess a lot of stuff up all the time. I tend to just do English words in an Italian accent if I get stuck. But people, they either pretend to understand me or they do understand me. Either way, I'm surviving.
Great. I'm sure they appreciate the efforts that you're assimilating, you know, like you're assimilating and adopting the language. So what's a typical day like for you?
Wow. It's a blessing and a curse. So I live here as well. So workshops downstairs, I live upstairs.
Wow.
Which means that I'm always at work and I'm always at home. I tend to be quite structured. I'm quite rigid. So every day I wake up, have some breakfast, go for a run. So I need to go for a run or do yoga. I need my time to look after myself before I put my shoulders and back through the grinder. Mornings, I tend to do repair restoration, whatever work I've got on at the moment, because the light is so good from this window right behind you. In the afternoon, it's too sunny, so I can't, it feels like a false light, like I can't really see what I'm doing. So then after lunch, that's when I tend to get into the new making. So I'm working on a violin at the moment.
Oh, cool.
Which has got a really long way to go because it's still just a piece of wood. Really long way to go. Like that's like the scroll at the moment is not looking super scroll like.
Wow.
Yeah, and then so then do some new making in the afternoon, and then evenings dinner. And it's nice because here in the bench next to me is a master maker from the local school, Francesco, who's my Lutherie brother, and then there's Emanuele, another luthier over there on the weekends. There's always, it's sort of a hub, so loads and loads of other luthiers come here. So we all have lunch together and we get a chance to spend some time together and hang out like as friends as well as like colleagues. So it's pretty hectic, but I appreciate working with other people. I think when I started, I was like alone, you know, it's like alone in my place working on the bench, and you know, my work is fascinating. I adore my work, but I mean, there comes to a point where you spend 8 hours alone on a workbench concentrating on something where I feel like I am going slightly insane. So here I think it's nice to get into that rhythm working with other people. You can chat, you can say, hey, does this look like really weird to you, or does that look nice, you know? Yeah, it's a lot more mess working with more people, but I really enjoy it.
That's fantastic. I want to be there and work. It sounds
you can
like
come and visit.
So yeah, that's great. I mean, you have a sounding board around you to have, right? And
yeah.
I love tools because I'm a jewelry designer. And so just, this is like a random question. What's your favorite tool?
I have it right here on my bench. So my favorite tools live in here so they don't get lost. I think this used to be a candle. There's also some seashells in here, and a piece of Pernambuco, so just keep everything together. So this is actually a tiny thumb plane from Marianne in Cremona. Wow. So she designed this so it perfectly fits in the purfling channel here. So it's like a perfect fit, and it's absolutely beautiful. It was made in Mexico, in silver, and it's just the most beautiful thing I own. Like, I absolutely adore it. Like, yeah, it's really
Wow.
precious. I don't let anyone else use this, so that lives here with me and my seashells, so no one can touch it.
Okay, that's a very safe spot. That's so cool. Thanks so much for sharing that. Precision.
That's all.
So you've mentioned a few, like the master luthier who's seated next to you, not right now, but who works with you. But just out of curiosity, who are you inspired by?
I think, I don't know, I'm less inspired, and I don't know, I think when I think about like who's inspirational, I suppose I think more like the women in my family. I've got really strong family and really, really close family. And the women in my family are all just so resilient. Like, they're really, really strong women who've been through a lot. And they've always just managed to stay so positive and so generous with, you know, their time and their love. And yeah, I don't know. I sort of think about that when I'm feeling a bit ground down, and it's like, wow, I can't get anything finished. I'll never manage to do this. You know, I'm hitting my head off a brick wall. I think, no, like, they all managed to get it done. Like, if they're getting it done, I'm getting it done. So I'm part of the good stock, you know, we're going to get stuff done.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
So, yeah.
That's it sounds like it definitely runs in your family, and you've adopted it, and it's a very nice trait. It's a very nice trait.
Yeah.
Very nice.
They're a good bunch.
So I promised 15 minutes, but we started late, so we're doing great with time. Unless there's anything that you wanted to add to it, there are some people who have joined and waved and said hello. So let's see if there are any questions or comments in the chat. Otherwise, we can start.
Okay, I have a question here about the scrolls with the face or the animals. We've got one here on a viola da gamba, but it wasn't one of mine. So I haven't actually done a scroll with like a head or an animal on it before. I've done like a scooped out scroll, so it doesn't have the two fluting parts and it's just completely smooth, but I've never got the courage up to like try and carve a head or an animal. I'm scared it would just look really bad. I think I need to take like a carving course to learn how to do 3D structures or something.
That is wild, actually. What's the craziest custom violin that you've had to make or recreate?
Ooh, that's really hard, because the crazy one is actually a new commission that's going to be starting soon, and I can't talk about it yet, but I can say that it's going to be like, I think people are going to love it or absolutely hate it. I mean, hate it just so much. I think it's either going to be like Crime Against the Lutherie Gods, or it's going to be fantastic. But I'm really excited to do something that's sort of, yeah, really slightly unacceptable.
Okay. Looking,
yeah.
I look forward to seeing the process or the end product when you can do the reveal. We missed some questions. So it says, someone asked, which is your favorite violin model? And then before that, someone had asked where you got your tools from.
So my favorite violin model, I'm probably a Gragnani. So I really like the Tuscan maker Gragnani. I think the violins are really, really fine. They have really short shoulders. They're really like elegant. They're quite sort of feminine. But like, they've got really high arching, so they sound fantastic. But the Fs, the sound holes are really, really, really small. So you need to open them up a bit wider. Otherwise you can't get a sound poster. Other than that, I really like the Gabrielli. I really like Gabrielli models. I think he did some really, really nice models. So yeah, really Tuscan, to be honest. Yeah, like Florence or Livorno, sort of like sticking with the territory. And the tools are from everywhere. So, I mean, I've picked up a lot of stuff at Cremona Tools, like most other people, like a lot of other luthiers. Like a lot of the chisel sets he uses are these Swiss-made ones. So these are really nice. They're not insanely expensive. And then there's a lot of like vintage, like there's just a lot of old tools. Like I picked up in England at like junk stores, which are like old Sheffield steel chisels and gouges, which are destroyed. So you need to soak them in Coca-Cola, get all the rust off, like refinish them. But they're fantastic. But weirdly enough, one of my favorite chisels came from a really crappy, cheap set that we got from like a hardware store nearby. I think we're in a fix and we just got an extra set, and they cost nothing and they're terrible tools. But for some reason, one of the chisels is just fantastic. And I've been using it for like 4 years. And every time I sharpen it and use it, I'm like, this is amazing. I don't know why it works so well. It has like holds the edge perfectly. It's just a great chisel. I think you don't need to spend like a fortune on like luxury tools as long as you're looking after tools, right? I think there's a time and place for getting some really good stuff. Like the tools that you use every single day, I tend to get something a bit better from Cremona Tools or Dictum or Veritas, but I wouldn't go, you know, I wouldn't get luxury everything. And I like a bargain as well, so. I've got a question for you as well. I wanted to ask how you got into the fine tuners.
Oh,
like,
wow.
How did this start?
So I grew up playing piano, not violin or any string, or viola or cello. I played guitar. Anyway, so I actually was at a chamber concert, a small chamber concert, and a violinist with the Metropolitan Opera Orchestra, Catherine Fawn, came up to me and asked me if I could bling out her E-string tuner, knowing that I'm a jewelry designer. She liked my style, she liked me, and it was also a mutual attraction as friends. And so I said, I would love to. I just need to figure out what that is. So I found out. The one thing I know is metal. Anything to do with metal I can work with. So, because that's my background, metal smithing. So yeah, that's how it started. I showed 2 tuners, and then she loved them and suggested we go into business together, and that's how we started.
Wow. That's really nice, like a collaboration.
Yes, indeed, for sure. Yeah. So yeah, that was, I think, 9 years ago, 9 years ago, and I built, for someone who doesn't know, who's not a violin player, I got to know a lot about the instruments and the certain nuances about it, because the tuners have to be technically suited so they don't affect sound or anything like that.
Yeah. So
yeah, it's been really nice to kind of build this community through the work and meet people like yourself.
No, it's really cool. The music world is fascinating. I think it's so nice, like not just the musicians, but like the mix of all the rest of us that are involved sort of on the periphery. Like it's sort of a strange feeling. It's like we're sort of like the behind the scenesy parts, like that's not normally in the light, right? Like the hidden side of the classical music world. But
yeah, for sure. Definitely. And I think the reason why when we do connect kind of works out is because we're all makers. We understand the craft behind it and what the things we need, and we all kind of go insane sometimes with the making of.
Yeah, that's for sure. Yeah.
So we have each other to kind of fall back on.
Yeah.
So thank you for asking that. I think I missed some questions that were asked, but I think we've done well with time. We've gone over, but thank you for sparing the time.